What's up, Unite Community Church? I am so thankful to be back with you here this morning. If you're not familiar, my name is Ashley. I am part of the teaching team here at UCC, and I'm particularly excited to be with you here this morning because we're right in the middle of this series called 1 Minute Theology. But before we jump in there, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of a story. As you may or may not have known listening to my sermons in the past, I have this beautiful family. There's my husband, Brandon. We have 3 little girls, and our youngest just turned 7 years old yesterday. Now, the way that I usually operate as a mom, and this is kind of a flaw of mine, and it's the way I operate in most of the world, is I'm the kind of person that, I thrive in the procrastination bubble. I'll work really well in that area, and a big part of the reason that I procrastinate so much is, our lives are crazy, right? We've got full-time jobs, my husband and I. We also are active in the church. We have 3 little girls. And so we live this life that's very much day to day, week to week, moment by moment. We're literally wait, what do we have going on this weekend? What do we have going on tomorrow night? That's how we operate. It's not always the most functional or efficient, but that's who we are. And so in keeping with my traditions, last week I'm sitting there and all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, next Wednesday is our youngest birthday. And I'm like, all right, Alex, what do you want to do for your birthday? And she's like, I want to go bowling. And I'm like, great. Not something I'm particularly fond of, but we can do it for you. And so I decided to wait till Sunday to start putting together the birthday party. I'm like, all right, where are we going? How many lanes do we need? How many people are coming? Who do you want to invite? And I start all of the mom things, right? Monday and Tuesday is full of all of the tasks that I'm supposed to be doing. And so I start calling all of the places. I start getting our guest list together. I sent out a text Monday night. I'm like, yo, I know it's last minute, but if you can come, fantastic. And we get to Wednesday. And I'm like, all right, we did it. And Brandon asked me, well, how much are we paying for this thing? I'm like, I really don't know. They didn't give me a price. I just signed us up for it. And he's like, all right, we'll get back on the phone. So an hour before we're supposed to go to the birthday party, I'm calling the bowling alley saying, oh, what is it that we're paying for this? And the manager is super calm. She's awesome. She kind of calms us down, but we get into the bowling alley and Alex she's just going crazy. She's like, this is so awesome. She's got her bowling shoes on. She wants to start bowling and people start arriving and we're having a good time. And then the presents start piling up on the table. And here we go. We got 20, maybe 15 adults, and then we have 10, 15 kids, and we're all crammed into these 5 lanes trying to bowl. And I start doing the mom thing, right, where I'm running around, and have you ever tried to throw a kid's birthday party in a public space? Real question. It is complete chaos, right? So we're thinking, all right, group the adults together on one lane and we'll group the kids together on one lane. But here's the thing, we put the kids together on this lane that was the end lane next to the bowling league. So there's a bowling league going, and we have these little 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds that they go up to bowl, and they got the gutters up, and they have the little ramp, and they're going to put their bowling ball on top of the ramp and try to get it in there, and they're trying to let that go, but they keep stepping in front of the bowling league. So I'm trying to bowl, but then I'm also trying to tell my child, no, you can't open presents yet. We still got 2 hours of bowling to do. And she's like, Mom, please. And then meanwhile, over here, I can see these kids stepping in front of these other people, and we're Christians, right? So we're trying to be kind, and we're like, oh, I'm so sorry. We'll keep them away from you, right? And so they're bowling, and then these 2 people, they're finishing up their game, and I'm like, all right, we're going to flip-flop. Everybody rewind, because there's complete, crazy chaos going on all around me. And I'm like, all right, small kids in the middle, adults to this side. Will somebody please reset the screen? Okay, we need gutters down, gutters up, gutters down, gutters up. And meanwhile, I got Alex. She's just sitting there tugging. She's like, can I please open presents? Can I please open presents? And I'm sitting there and I can feel the overstimulation just starting to happen. I start hyperventilating a little bit. And finally, it's an hour and a half later, I finally go over to my husband who's having the time of his life bowling. I'm like, I need your help. And he's like, okay, what do you need? I'm like, I need you to just call everything off for 5 minutes so we can do the cake and do the candles and we can just breathe and she can open her presents and everything will be fine. And this is the kind of chaos that we're existing in until I get home and I'm finally like, okay. I don't really remember anything that happened the last 3 hours, but we did it and we were there and it was good. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because this little microcosm of my life, this little piece of my life is how I actually feel on a day-to-day basis. And what strikes me about all of this is I think that this type of chaos, this type of hustle and bustle, this type of anxiety that we have going day in and day out is something that most of us experience on the regular. Well, we're loading up our calendars, right? We got bridal showers, we've got weddings, we've got baby showers, we have work obligations, we have family obligations, we got kids sports, this, that, this, that, this, that. And we start looking at our calendars that are perfectly color-coded, and we find that there is absolutely not a blank space on that calendar. And then we add in, if you're like me, and I wish I could show you my phone right now so you'd know that I'm not lying to you about this, but we add in the technological aspect where if you were to look at my phone, you'd see about 136 unread text messages, about 12 Facebook messages, over 1,000 emails in my inbox that I just haven't had time to weed out the bad ones and delete them all yet. And my point of saying all of this is we exist in this type of lifestyle. And here's what real. 84% of present-day Americans, so present-day Americans say that they are experiencing the symptoms of burnout on a daily basis. And what's more, we got 62% of Americans are saying that they spend up to 5 hours on their cell phone because they constantly have text messages, phone calls, emails, work contacting them. And frankly, here's my opinion. Busyness has become this new addiction that we rush towards and then we try to run away from it. And the reason why I am so incredibly passionate about this topic is because I truly believe that most of us deep in our hearts, like what we long for and in our minds, what we crave is something different than the way that our everyday life looks like. I believe that it's because this is not how we were designed to operate. And here's what's so crazy. If you look biblically, if you look scripturally, God is in agreement on this because he literally went in and would schedule a timeout, a pause for his people. And so I told you we're right in the middle of this series called 1 Minute Theology. And here's the word that we're going to be looking in today. And it's really, really simple word. Maybe you've heard it, maybe you haven't, but it's the word Jubilee. Strictly speaking, simply, what Webster's dictionary defines Jubilee as is a special anniversary or an event, especially one celebrating 25 or 50 years of a reign or activity. So think about like a birthday party or an anniversary, or maybe the anniversary of the time that you were at work, right? You have this party, but Jubilee in the Bible and what God hands down is a year-long celebration. And again, where do we get this from in the Bible? Well, here's what I want you to do. We're going to be heading into our scripture. We're going to be going back into a book called Leviticus. Now, Leviticus is one of those books that if you're me, I don't want to say I pass over it because I'm not supposed to say that, but sometimes I just pass over it. And here's why. Leviticus is that book of the Bible that God is handing down rules and laws to the Israelites. And he's handing down these rules and laws so that they have a way or a standard that they're meant to be living, right? And for some people, they're like, well, that doesn't really apply to me anymore because that's the Old Testament. I just read the New Testament. And then other people are like, I must still apply every single one of these rules into my life. But here's what I think is incredible, is when you get into the why of the laws, we start learning a little bit something about God, how he operates, and what he wants for us. So we're going to be diving into Leviticus 25, and this is where we're going to be starting. Leviticus 25:10. Consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you is to return to your family property and sow to your own clan. The 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. Do not sow and do not reap what grows of itself or harvest the untended vines. For it is a jubilee and it is to be holy for you. Eat only what is taken directly from the fields. Now, could you imagine this just for a second? Could you imagine having an entire year off? Like, I'll be like, yes, let's celebrate, let's party. Like, the idea of not going to work, not going to the office, having my family together is like, whoo, that would be absolutely incredible. But the problem is, the second thought that comes into my head and probably comes into your head too is thinking, well, what about my bills, right? Like, think about it this way. The very beginning of COVID, before we had that first shutdown, here was me. I'm going to give you an example, and please don't judge me for this, okay? I'd be sitting on my phone, and I'd be watching all these states and these schools and these places that are like, we're going to have a 2-week shutdown. We're going to shut down for 2 weeks to try to contain this virus. And this is really bad, but please forgive me. But I was sitting in my bed going, oh, heck yes, please. Let me have a shutdown. And it wasn't because I was not considerate of the people who are sick or people who had serious health conditions, but all I could think was, wouldn't that be amazing? I have 2 weeks of my life where I wouldn't have to do anything. Like, I would have no obligations. I would not be expected to go to work, any kids trips, like anything like that. I'd just be in my home with my family, and then boom, it happened. And I was like, I'm gonna be honest, I was sitting over here like, oh, 2 weeks with my hubby in the house, like, let's go. Like, we went out and we bought an Xbox, and we're like, we're gonna sit here and game with our kids all the time. This is gonna be awesome. And then 2 weeks started expanding into 4 weeks, started expanding into 2 months. And at first it really was kind of cool for the novelty of not having to do any work and to be able to rest until we realized and we got our first electric bill. And we were like, oh crap, we're supposed to be paying this. And my business isn't operating, and my husband's only working a little bit. And how in the heck are we supposed to be paying our mortgage and our electric bill and all of these other things that we're responsible for paying? And all of a sudden what we think is right after that rest is we start thinking, well, what in the world are we going to do? And so here's the big question that I want to have in all of that. Why is this a command that God set down to the Israelites? And what was it that he wanted us to learn, or what was it that God was doing in the year of Jubilee? Well, I think he's doing 2 things, right? And the first thing that he was doing is he was resting. He was literally creating a year of rest. Now, personally, I don't know how you are, but I'm not a great rester, okay? So like if I sit and I don't really have anything that I'm supposed to be doing, how my mind works is I start thinking about all of the things that I could be doing. Like literally, if I have time in my calendar, I immediately start thinking, well, what else can I put in here? Like somebody asked me to do something, I'm like, oh yes, absolutely, I have time for that. And I start filling my time. And when I have downtime, I have such a hard time not starting to think, well, I could be doing this for my business. I could be doing this. I could be making more money. I could be doing this. Instead, I fill all that time with Netflix and Facebook because at least it allows me to numb out and I stop thinking about all of the things that I could or feel like I should be doing. And I don't know how many of you are like that, but it's probably more of us than we like to admit, where, to be honest, we're not good resters. And you might push back. You might be thinking, oh, Ashley, I'm good at this. I love rest. Like, I can watch Netflix all day. I want to caution you here. I want to question you here. Is watching Netflix or having your phone in your hand, is that really doing nothing? Think about it. How often do you just sit? And this is not something I want to talk about just spiritually. It's not. Because I was watching this guy on YouTube, and this guy on YouTube, he's famous, he's got big business or something, I can't remember what his name is. But he was talking about the fact is he would go into work and he would just have this laundry list of things to do, right? But he wouldn't be getting anything done. He'd sit there and he'd be thinking about all of the things that he'd have to do, but his brain was so fried that he's like, man, I can't get anything done. Here's what's interesting. This is the move he made. He decided to stop bringing his phone with him into work. Seriously. He'd go into work, he would leave his phone outside, in the car, at home, whatever. And here's what's incredible, what started happening is he said, I left my phone outside and all of a sudden, I'm sitting there and I'm just bored. And he's like, and I get bored and all of a sudden I start getting creative. All of these ideas start popping into my head. And suddenly the work that was taking me hours and hours and days, he's like, I was flying through this work. And suddenly my work day would be done. He's like, I could actually allow myself to get creative with the ideas I needed to have to create. And this is incredible to me because not only did he have more energy at work, but he also said he would go home and he'd be a better husband and a better father after having gotten all of that done at work. Now think about this for a second, okay? Just think about it with me. In our world, where productivity and progress are an idol, what does that mean for us? What does this idea mean for us? It said the lack of rest is actually ruining us. And stay with me for a little bit longer because there is somebody biblically speaking, who mastered this idea of rest. You get into the life of Jesus, all right? You get into the life of Jesus, and Jesus himself, he had this rhythm of rest. And what's so poignant to me about this is that this is the Son of God, right? In all aspects, Jesus is God himself. But he had this natural rhythm of rest. Where do we get this from? If you go into Mark, okay? If you look into Mark, this is the time of Jesus' life where like things are really picking up speed. Like he's teaching, he's preaching, he's going from town to town to town. Essentially, he's getting famous also because he has crowds of people that are just following. And it's like miracles on miracles. I don't know if you know that song, but it's like you get a miracle, you get a miracle. He's just popping them out left and right. And he's got this crowd of people that are coming to him looking for his teaching, looking for his service, looking for his healing. And then at the same time, he also has the critics just coming out of the woodwork. I don't know if you've ever had this happen in your life where like suddenly you elevate or you reach promotion and then suddenly people just start saying things to you, right? Well, Jesus was experiencing this because at the time that he starts teaching and healing, suddenly he also has the Pharisees watching his every move. So he has people who need things from him in terms of service. Then he has people that are looking for every single thing that he's doing wrong. And then, after all of this, Mark chapter 6, there's John the Baptist. John the Baptist, he was a cousin of Jesus. He's actually the person who baptized Jesus, right? And right after he baptizes Jesus, what ends up happening is, boom, he gets beheaded. So on top of the service that Jesus is performing day in and day out, on top of the mental exhaustion about worrying about what people are going to be saying about him as they're looking for him to do things wrong, well, now he's also grieving, right? And so with all of this stress, with all of this pressure, what does Jesus end up doing in the midst of this? He rested. This is what it says in Mark 6:31. It says this, then because so many people were coming and going, man, I'm just going to pause there for a second because can you just imagine the exhaustion that Jesus must have felt, right? Because Jesus is God, but Jesus was also human, meaning he's experienced all the same feelings, emotions, physical downfalls that humans would have, right? Can you imagine people needing things from you every second of every day, looking to you, needing things, asking, you're performing, you're giving, and then you got the other people are saying, no, you're doing it all wrong. You're doing it all wrong. You're doing it all wrong. It feels like that birthday party I was telling you about back at the beginning, where I have something I need to do here, something I need to do there, and then I'm worried myself, am I doing this all wrong for my kid, right? Just imagine for a second that type of bone-weary, deep exhaustion that Jesus was feeling. It says this again, Mark 6:31. Then, because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, he said to them, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. Rest mattered. Rest mattered to Jesus, and if you bring it back to the Israelites, rest mattered within the life that they were living then too, because here's my question to you. Like, does life ever stop being complicated? Like, you got kids, right? You know, kids are worried about who am I going to school with? Are my friends going to be in my class? They're worried about learning everything that they need to learn, but it's not incredibly complicated until they reach maybe 10, 11, 12, and then they get into middle school. In middle school, well, now you got lots of homework. Maybe you're starting to switch classes. Now you've also got the added pressure of like, am I going to fit in? Am I going to fit in? So you've got the middle schoolers, and then you've got high school, right? In high school, you just get like a triple threat there. Man, you've got sports or your hobbies. You've got school. You also have this new desire for community and friends, and you still got your family. You're worrying about ACTs or SATs, getting to college, or what are you going to do after that? You take this breath, and then some of us, we go to college, right? In college is supposed to be like, oh, freedom, right? I don't have to wake up at a certain time. Man, I don't have to go to 8 a.m. class if I don't want to. I don't have parents sitting there telling me what I have to do, when I have to do it. Woo! It's just like freedom. So you realize, I still got a phone bill. Oh, I still have to figure out where my food's going to come from. I still have to have a school bill. And so you add on this part-time job that you can work around your classes, and then maybe if you're lucky, you might find a boyfriend or a girlfriend in there also, right? And even if you don't go to college, well, now you're trying to figure out, all right, where do I get a full-time job at? I'm not going to college. Maybe I'm going to trade school. Maybe I'm getting into the creative arts. What am I doing here? And it's no different there because you're still trying to figure out the trajectory of your life. And then whether you go to college or you're not going to college, that next step, like maybe you get married. And it's like, ooh, fantastic. I found this person and now we're going to share responsibilities. Life is about to get easier. But here's what I got to tell you, if you're not married yet, it doesn't get easier because now instead of one person's mess, you got two people's messes. And for some reason, it's harder to clean up two people's messes, even though there's two of you, than it is to just clean up your own mess, right? So now you've got the mortgage, you've got you're both working full-time jobs, or if you didn't get married, you still maybe got that mortgage that you're working at or the apartment payment. Whoo! I get a little bit tired even describing everything that ends up happening. And then you have that key factor you start adding in where you got kids. And with kids, oh, now you got the more complication of they got their sports and their hobbies. And it's this cycle where every step of the way, life doesn't end up getting less complicated. It actually ends up getting more complicated. And in the midst of all that complication, what is it that we need in order to keep going? We need rest. We need time that's specifically cut out to rejuvenate our minds, to rejuvenate physically our souls. Like, I don't know if you've ever experienced burnout, but for me personally, what it feels like is physical illness. It feels like headaches. It feels like stomach issues. That's how I know I am experiencing burnout at that time, right? And Jesus, who is the Son of God, who is God, he himself was the master at it. When he would get tired, when he would go serve and go, he would come back and he would take the time to rest. So here's what I want to ask you. What does rest mean? Does rest mean that we just sit on Netflix or on Facebook the entire day because, hey, it's my Sabbath, I can do with it as I want to? I don't think that's quite it. When I think of Sabbath or I think of rest, I think of this word, Jubilee. This is why this word excites me so much. Because Jubilee was a celebration. And it was a celebration of everything that God had already done for the Israelites. It was a time of reflection and a time to step back and say what God has given us is good. If you actually go back and study the Sabbath, what you will find is the Sabbath was handed down as a law. So a Sabbath, one day a week where you're resting. It was handed down in reflection from when God himself rested on the seventh day. And he sat back and he said, it is good. See, Jubilee is not necessarily about sitting back and just in mind numbiness, watch your Netflix, scroll Facebook, maybe play a phone game. No, Jubilee was about sitting back and looking around and celebrating everything that God has done and saying, it is good. What does this look like practically? It looks like spending some of that time with God. It looks like joyfully celebrating everything that he's given you. Like, think about it. If you have a house, like, do you remember that feeling when you first got that house and you're like, oh man, This is exciting. It's exhilarating, man. God is so good, and you are praising and praising and praising. Maybe Sabbath looks like taking that time in your house, in your yard, and working on it, not because you have to, because you're doing it for the glory of God, and you're reflecting on what it is that He has given you, right? I personally think that a big part of Jubilee looks like celebrating, just like it said in that verse, with your family. It looks like taking the kids or going to visit your mom or your dad or your siblings and saying, man, this relationship here is good. Like practically, it might mean taking your kids and going to actually do something fun. And honestly, I'm preaching to myself here because sometimes when I get tired, all I want to do is sit back and do nothing until I realize that this Jubilee is a time for us to reconnect together as a family. What does that mean? Putting the phone away. Not allowing the outside world to have access during that time. Turning off the television. Spending that time, yes, in reflection, but also just in pure joy and delight at the world that is around you. It's sitting back, and instead of focusing on all that you want to obtain or all that you have to do, it's sitting back and saying, this right here, what I already have, is good. And actually living in that present moment. And here's what I believe. I believe that when we learn to rest well, what happens is number 2, where we actually end up resetting. See, Jubilee, the actual Hebrew word there is yobel. The literal translation is a ram's horn. So I want you to think of the yobel as like this bleary noise, like rah, rah. And if you think about that noise, the ram's horn was used to signify the start of Jubilee. And the way I think about it is like, this is like an alarm, right? This is like an alarm. It's like reset, reset, reset. That's what Jubilee kind of is in my mind. But for an ancient Jew, here's what Jubilee was. It wasn't just a year of reset, of rest, but it was also a year that was marked by canceling everybody's debt, freeing all the slaves, and returning all leased land back to its original owner. Now, I know in our American mindset, like we have more the tendency to think, well, like what's mine is mine, right? Like I worked hard for it, that's for me. But back then, each family, each tribe had its own land. And God wanted to raise up a group of people who collectively would take care of each other. It's why He designed these laws of Jubilee the specific way that He did, because He said, I want to display my glory through a people group. I want this part of the population to live differently than the rest of the world, the same way that He wants that for us. But just like us, sometimes people get a little bit off, right? Like life gets complicated. We experience loss. We have a job that just has these high demands, or maybe we're the ones placing those demands, or it's a season where like everything seems to be happening all at once. And that is where Jubilee comes in. Where if we would choose to rest, we would also find this type of reset that God is talking about. And the problem with this is we don't do it. We don't rest. We don't take a time, and I'm not saying we got to take a whole year, but we don't take a time to rest, so therefore we never experience a reset, and it was the same exact thing with Israel. See, what's fascinating about this idea of Jubilee is I told you, right, that it was a law passed down from God to the Israelite people to set them apart. But what's amazing, there is no historical record of the Israelites ever following the law of Jubilee. Why? Because it's hard. Because the rest and the reset, that's nothing that's in our natural human nature. Like this idea of setting people free and giving back land and clearing all debt, that's nothing in our human nature that we easily do. No, we want to cling on. We want to push more. And the problem is, ultimately, it's not that it's a theological issue. It's a faith issue. Because we don't trust God. We don't trust God with our money. We don't trust God with our family. We don't trust God with our businesses. We don't trust God enough to say, I'm going to step back. I'm going to believe that in these moments of rest that God is working, right? So what do? What do we need? We need a reset. And our reset actually came in the form of Jesus. Because like we just said, it's not a matter of theology. It's actually a matter of the heart. And it's a matter of our faith in a God who's going to provide for us even when we step back and say, I'm going to take my hands off of this for a second. So what does God do? Well, watch this. Luke 4:16. He went to Nazareth where he had been brought up. And on the Sabbath day, he went into the synagogue, as was his custom. He stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him. Unrolling it, he found the place where it is written, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of the sight for the blind, to set free the oppressed, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." The year of the Lord's favor was Jubilee. That is when Jesus came and proclaimed these words, was the year of Jubilee as it was supposed to be, meaning the ultimate rest and the ultimate reset. That is who Jesus was. In this, what Jesus shows us is that Jubilee was created to be a real life illustration of full cancellation of all spiritual debt and all new life and a new beginning to everybody that responded to his message. Because remember, Jubilee was about rest and resetting things back to where they were, right? And Jesus says, I've come to free all of their spiritual debt and to reset them back to the way things were intended. It's why Jesus says another time, Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Do you see it? See, the word Jubilee was never meant to be a means to an end, but an illustration of what was to come. This is where the Old Testament actually foreshadows what's to come in the New Testament, where God tried to give a glimpse of this to the Israelite people to say, this is the way that I intend for you guys to live. But because I know it's hard, because I know it's against your nature, I have something more for you to come in the future that will be greater than even this Jubilee year of rest that I'm trying to give you now. I am trying to foreshadow the coming of the greatest reset there will ever be. And in that was Jesus. And in that is our good news, where we can honestly, truly find a true rest, a true reset to find him, where we can finally feel the release of pressure, the release of striving, the release of the to-do list, and reset and come back and focus our eyes up on what is most important in this physical world where we're living right now, where maybe what we need more than anything else is the chance to rest and reset and pause and reflect on just what it is that God has done in our life, what he's done in the past, and all that he's going to be doing. Biblically speaking, Jubilee wasn't a day, it wasn't an hour, it wasn't a party. It was a year-long celebration that God handed down to the Israelites to give rest and restoration and reset. But here's the thing, like the Israelites, we have a hard time with our rest and relaxation. So what does God do? He sends Jesus to be our rest. He sends Jesus to allow us to be calm, to allow us to have peace in the midst of our crazy hustling and bustling lives. He allows us to find rest in him. That's why Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest." Jesus is our rest, and it's in him that we can celebrate all the good things that we have in this life. I'm Ashley, and this is 1 Minute Theology. So here's what we're going to do, you guys. After understanding the fullness of Jubilee, this is what I want you to do. And it sounds so simple, but I know it's actually harder than what we're saying here. I want you to make a commitment to rest. I want you to make a commitment further to Jubilee. I want you to make a commitment to this celebration. And so how do we do this? How do we do this practically speaking? Because I know for most of us, we're not going to have the capability to take a full year of absolute Jubilee rest like the Israelites. It's just not the world that we were living in, right? What is worth celebrating in your life? What has God gifted and given to you? What do you spend those times and those days of rest reflecting on, praising for, thanking for? Here's a practical question. In that time of rest, what are you doing with your phone? Where are you placing that? Is it within your eyesight where every text, every email, everything coming through is right there in front of you? Or are you putting it aside and saying, I'm going to just rest into the present moment of what right now entails? I think biblically speaking, and practically speaking, one of the best things we can do for our state of mind is to put that phone and put that computer away for a little bit and come back to what's really important. Come back to that time with your family, your children, your friends, your parents. Come back to a time where you're having that connection point with them. And ultimately, please come back to a time with God. You know, it's no coincidence that church falls on a Sabbath day, or what we in America think of this as the Sabbath, which is Sunday. It's no coincidence that church is the time that we come together and we celebrate what God's done in the last week, but we also renew our minds in Him. And here's the thing, I don't think we should just save that for Sundays. I think we should be looking to create rest every single day in these daily moments with God, where we get to reset ourselves and refocus on Him and what He wants to bring to us. Here's what I want to do right now. We're going to enter into this time of prayer and communion as a church. And if you're at home, what I want you to do right now is I just want you to sit back. I want you to engage in celebrating with what God has done, but also ask Him, Lord, where are the areas of my life that I need to step back, step into You, rest into the peace that You have offered me, and let You be God in those moments? Where are the times that you just need to sit back and hit that reset in the chaos that we call life? Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I'm brimming with joy in a time that we actually are thinking about all of these hard things, because I know that the life that we live here on this planet, I know that this isn't how You intended to create it. I know that You didn't mean for us to live burnt out. You didn't mean for us to live quiet and tired and weary. No. You said, come to Me. My burden is easy. My yoke is light. That's what You said, Father. And so what I want to pray is You just reveal to us the areas of our life where we need to step back a little bit so You can step in, Lord. Usher in this sense of peace to all who are listening, all who need that reset, all who need to spend that time celebrating who You are right now, and allow us to praise for everything You've given us. Everything that we have is good and holy, and just like You did, Father, to sit back and say, it is good, and then have the energy to go out and proclaim that good news. Father, we praise You, we thank You, and wish all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Hi, Amen. I gotta hide that time. I gotta hide that time.